Language is not merely a means of communication, it is the fundamental tool through which we construct reality itself. The words we use, the sentences we form, and the ideas we express do more than reflect what already exists. They shape what is possible. Every great human endeavor, from the formation of civilizations to the personal transformation of an individual, begins with the articulation of thought. Without language, there is no clarity, no order, and no direction. It is through words that we give structure to chaos, impose meaning on experience, and bridge the gap between what is and what could be. Consider the way a vague, formless idea lingers in the mind, difficult to grasp until it is put into words. A thought, before it is spoken or written, is like a mist, present but without distinct form. The moment we force ourselves to articulate it, we impose definition upon it. That process alone forces us to wrestle with ambiguity, to confront uncertainty, and to refine the idea into something coherent. This is why writing and speaking are not just acts of expression, but acts of thinking itself. You do not truly know what you believe until you have attempted to express it clearly. This principle applies not only to individual thought, but also to the broader human experience. Societies are built on language. Laws, constitutions, moral frameworks, and cultural narratives are all linguistic constructs that provide order to human existence. Without shared language, there can be no shared vision, and without a shared vision, there can be no organized movement toward a better future. The ability to communicate effectively determines whether ideas remain trapped in the minds of individuals or whether they become forces capable of shaping reality. But language does more than clarify the present, it also creates the future. When we declare an intention, we are engaging in an act of creation. A person who states, "I will build a business" or "I will become stronger" is not merely describing an idea, but setting into motion a process that alters reality. Words become commitments. Commitments lead to actions. Actions transform the world. The person who speaks with precision and truth is literally shaping the course of their own destiny. This is why the careful use of language is so crucial. People often speak carelessly, unaware that the words they choose shape not only their thoughts, but also their actions and perceptions. To describe oneself as hopeless or incapable is not just an observation, it is an act of self-creation, reinforcing a narrative that dictates behavior. The person who continually speaks of failure ensures their own defeat before even attempting to succeed. On the other hand, the person who chooses their words carefully, who articulates their goals with precision and clarity, sets themselves on a path toward actualizing those goals. Language also serves as a bridge between individuals. Relationships, whether personal, professional, or societal, are built upon the exchange of words. Miscommunication breeds conflict, while clear articulation fosters understanding. When people fail to express themselves properly, they remain misunderstood, trapped within their own isolated perspectives. But when they take the time to refine their speech, to speak with honesty and accuracy, they make true connection possible. This is not merely a social convenience, but a necessity for collaboration, progress, and stability. The importance of precise language is especially evident in moments of conflict. When emotions run high, it is easy to lash out with vague accusations, to speak impulsively rather than thoughtfully. But those who master their words master the situation. They can de-escalate rather than inflame, clarify rather than confuse, and lead rather than follow. The ability to articulate a position with precision and confidence is one of the most powerful skills a person can develop. It is also worth noting that language is not just external, it shapes our internal world as well. The way we speak to ourselves in our own minds determines the way we see ourselves and the world around us. A person who constantly engages in self-critical or defeatist language is programming themselves for failure. But a person who consciously chooses to frame challenges as opportunities, who speaks to themselves with encouragement and purpose, is far more likely to overcome obstacles and achieve their goals. The narrative we construct internally through words dictates our emotional and psychological state, which in turn influences our actions. This is why, throughout history, every great leader, thinker, and innovator has understood the power of language. From religious texts that shape the moral fabric of societies to political speeches that inspire revolutions, words are the driving force behind human progress. They can unite or divide, uplift or destroy, create or corrupt. Those who wield language effectively wield power over themselves, over others, and over the future. Therefore, it is not enough to simply speak. One must speak carefully, truthfully, and with purpose. Every word spoken is an act of creation, shaping both individual lives and collective destinies. Those who master language master reality itself. Clarity is not something that arrives fully formed, nor is it something that can be passively received. It emerges through engagement, through the process of wrestling with confusion, uncertainty, and complexity. Too often, people assume that they must first achieve clarity before taking action, but this is a mistake. Waiting for complete certainty before moving forward is a form of paralysis. In reality, it is the act of engaging, of thinking, speaking, writing, and acting that refines thought and brings order to what was previously unclear. When someone is faced with an important decision, they often hesitate, waiting for a perfect understanding of the situation. They assume that once clarity arrives, they will know exactly what to do. But clarity does not come from waiting, it comes from stepping forward despite uncertainty. It is only by engaging with the problem, by exploring different possibilities, and by making mistakes that one can gain the necessary insight to move in the right direction. A person standing at the edge of a dense fog will never see what lies beyond until they take the first step. Each movement forward reveals more of the path. This principle applies to thought itself. People often believe that they need to have a fully formed idea before expressing it, but this is not how the mind works. Thoughts, when unspoken or unwritten, remain vague and amorphous. They exist in a formless state, difficult to grasp or refine. But the moment a person begins to articulate those thoughts, whether by speaking out loud, writing in a journal, or discussing with others, they force themselves to engage with the material. This engagement exposes contradictions, clarifies confusions, and leads to sharper, more refined understanding. Writing in particular is one of the most powerful tools for achieving clarity. Many people find that when they attempt to write about an idea, they struggle to put their thoughts into words. This struggle is not a sign of failure, but a sign that the mind is working through complexity. The act of writing forces a person to organize their thoughts, to distinguish between what is essential and what is not, and to confront gaps in their understanding. A person who commits to writing regularly, whether for personal reflection or for public discourse, will find that their thinking becomes clearer over time. Engagement also clarifies understanding through dialogue. Speaking with others about an idea forces a person to see it from different angles, to respond to challenges, and to refine their position. When people avoid discussion out of fear of being wrong or misunderstood, they deny themselves the opportunity for intellectual growth. Every great thinker, writer, or leader has engaged in dialogue, not because they had perfect knowledge to begin with, but because they sought to refine their ideas through the process of discussion. Those who remain silent, waiting for certainty, often find that clarity never comes. This principle applies not only to intellectual pursuits, but also to skill development. No one becomes competent at anything by waiting until they fully understand it. A musician does not master an instrument by studying sheet music without ever playing a note. A public speaker does not become eloquent by thinking about speeches without ever speaking. Mastery comes from repeated engagement, from doing the work, making mistakes, learning from those mistakes, and improving with each attempt. Clarity about one's abilities and the path to mastery only emerges through the process of trial and correction. The fear of failure often prevents people from engaging fully. They hesitate, worried that they might make the wrong decision, say the wrong thing, or pursue the wrong goal. But failure is not the enemy of clarity. Stagnation is. Every action, even if it results in a mistake, provides valuable feedback. A person who makes a wrong decision learns from it and can adjust course. A person who does nothing remains in the same place, gaining no new insight, no new perspective, and no clearer understanding of what to do next. Engagement also clarifies purpose. Many people struggle with finding meaning in their lives, unsure of what they should pursue. They wait for a clear sense of purpose before taking action, believing that they need a fully developed vision before committing to a path. But purpose does not precede action, it follows it. People discover what is meaningful to them by engaging with the world, by trying different things, by seeing what resonates and what does not. The more they engage, the clearer their sense of purpose becomes. Even emotions become clearer through engagement. People who suppress their emotions, refusing to confront them, often find themselves overwhelmed by vague feelings of anxiety, frustration, or sadness. But those who engage with their emotions, who take the time to reflect, to talk about what they feel, to write about their experiences, begin to understand themselves better. They gain insight into the causes of their emotions. And with that insight comes the ability to manage and direct them more effectively. Ultimately, clarity is the result of engagement with life itself. Those who stand back, waiting for perfect understanding before taking action, often remain trapped in confusion. But those who step forward, who engage with their thoughts, their skills, their relationships, and their emotions, gradually carve order out of chaos. They refine their thinking, develop their abilities, and discover meaning in the process. The path forward is never fully visible at the start, but with each step taken, the way becomes clearer. Perfectionism is often mistaken for a virtue. People believe that striving for perfection means setting high standards, ensuring quality, and avoiding mistakes. But in reality, perfectionism is more often a form of self-sabotage. It creates an unattainable standard that leads to hesitation, procrastination, and ultimately inaction. Instead of pushing people toward excellence, it traps them in fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, and fear of not measuring up. The pursuit of perfection becomes a form of paralysis, preventing any meaningful progress. At its core, perfectionism is rooted in an unrealistic expectation that everything must be done flawlessly from the start. This mindset makes it nearly impossible to begin anything new. A person who refuses to write the first sentence of a book until they can guarantee it will be brilliant will never write at all. An entrepreneur who refuses to launch a business until every detail is perfect will never bring their vision to life. A musician who hesitates to play in front of others until they are completely flawless will never share their art. In all these cases, the pursuit of perfection prevents action, which in turn prevents growth. Progress is messy by nature. The first attempt at anything is rarely excellent. Every skill, every craft, and every meaningful endeavor requires a process of trial and error. Mistakes are not evidence of failure. They are necessary steps in the learning process. The greatest writers produce bad drafts before they create masterpieces. The best athletes fail repeatedly before they achieve victory. Scientists conduct countless failed experiments before making groundbreaking discoveries. The difference between success and stagnation is not the absence of mistakes, but the willingness to make them and learn from them. Perfectionism also distorts how people evaluate their own efforts. Instead of focusing on progress, they focus on flaws. A person who has worked hard on a project but finds one small imperfection may feel as though the entire effort was worthless. This all-or-nothing thinking leads to dissatisfaction and frustration, making it difficult to appreciate small improvements or celebrate incremental achievement. When nothing feels good enough, motivation begins to fade, and the desire to even try diminishes. This mindset also has a strong connection to procrastination. Many people delay starting something important because they fear they will not do it perfectly. They tell themselves they need more time, more preparation, or more research before they can begin. But this endless cycle of preparation is often just a way to avoid the discomfort of imperfection. The longer they wait, the more intimidating the task becomes, and the less likely they are to ever start. Even when perfectionists do complete something, they often struggle to share it with others. They endlessly revise, tweak, and second-guess their work, believing that it is never quite ready. This leads to missed opportunities and unfulfilled potential. The truth is, nothing will ever be perfect. No book, no speech, no invention, no performance, nothing created by humans will ever be without flaws. Those who wait for perfection before releasing their work into the world will find themselves forever waiting. Beyond individual paralysis, perfectionism can also damage relationships. People who expect perfection from themselves often project those same expectations onto others. They become overly critical, impatient, or controlling, expecting flawless performance from friends, family, or colleagues. This creates stress, resentment, and unrealistic pressure, making collaboration and connection more difficult. No one enjoys working with or being around someone who is constantly dissatisfied. And perfectionism can create an environment where nothing ever feels good enough. Perfectionism is also a major source of anxiety. The constant fear of making mistakes leads to excessive self-doubt and mental exhaustion. Instead of focusing on the joy of learning, growing, or creating, perfectionists live under the weight of impossible expectations. This can lead to burnout as they push themselves harder and harder without ever feeling a sense of accomplishment. The pursuit of perfection drains energy, leaving little room for creativity, spontaneity, or fulfillment. The alternative to perfectionism is not carelessness, it is excellence through iteration. Instead of demanding perfection from the start, people should focus on starting, improving, and refining over time. A person who allows themselves to be imperfect can grow, adapt, and build something meaningful. A writer who finishes a rough draft, even if it is flawed, has something to improve upon. A speaker who delivers an imperfect speech learns what to refine for the next time. A business owner who launches a less than perfect product can gather feedback and make it better. Progress is made by those who act, not by those who wait for the impossible standard of perfection. Letting go of perfectionism requires a shift in mindset. Instead of asking, "Is this perfect?" people should ask, "Is this better than before?" Instead of avoiding mistakes, they should embrace them as part of the learning process. Instead of fearing judgment, they should recognize that every expert was once a beginner. The most successful people in any field are not those who never fail, but those who fail, learn, and improve. Ultimately, perfectionism is a trap that keeps people from reaching their full potential. It replaces action with hesitation, creativity with fear, and progress with paralysis. The only way forward is to accept imperfection, to take action despite uncertainty, and to recognize that real growth comes from engagement, not from waiting for flawlessness. Those who can overcome the paralysis of perfectionism will find themselves moving forward while others remain stuck, forever waiting for the perfect moment that will never come. Life is inherently chaotic. The world is unpredictable, filled with uncertainty, competing demands, and endless distractions. Without a sense of direction, people become lost, drifting from one situation to another without purpose or stability. Goals provide the necessary structure to navigate this chaos. They create order, impose meaning, and serve as guiding principles that transform randomness into a path forward. Without goals, individuals are at the mercy of external circumstances, reacting instead of acting, being pushed instead of pushing forward. Goals do not eliminate chaos, but they give it shape, turning disorder into progress. And when a person lacks clear goals, life feels overwhelming. There is too much to do, too many possibilities, and no clear way to prioritize what matters. This often leads to stagnation. When everything seems equally important, it becomes impossible to decide where to begin. Goals solve this problem by defining what is meaningful and what is not. They act as a filter, allowing a person to focus on what truly matters while ignoring distractions. Without goals, energy is scattered in all directions, leading to frustration and a sense of aimlessness. But with a goal in place, every action can be measured against it, ensuring that time and effort are used effectively. Goals also provide motivation. Chaos is exhausting because it lacks structure. There is no sense of progress, no feeling of moving forward. People who lack goals often experience boredom, frustration, or even despair because they do not see themselves achieving anything significant. But a well-defined goal creates a sense of purpose. It provides a reason to wake up in the morning, a challenge to overcome, and a vision to pursue. Motivation is not something that appears out of nowhere. It is built through progress toward meaningful objectives. Each step taken toward a goal reinforces a sense of achievement, creating momentum that drives further action. Moreover, goals give people control over their lives. In the absence of goals, external forces dictate direction. Society, employers, peers, and random circumstances become the decision makers, leaving individuals feeling powerless. But when a person sets a goal, they reclaim control. They decide what is important, where to focus their efforts, and how to shape their own future. Instead of being pushed around by circumstances, they become active participants in their own development. This sense of control is essential for mental well-being, as it fosters confidence, resilience, and a belief in one's ability to shape reality. Another important function of goals is that they provide structure to time. Time, like chaos, is formless unless given shape. Without goals, days, weeks, and years pass without direction, leading to a feeling of wasted potential. People who lack goals often look back and wonder where their time went, realizing too late that they have not made meaningful progress. But goals break time into measurable segments, deadlines, milestones, and achievements. They turn abstract time into something tangible, something that can be used with purpose rather than wasted. The best goals are not just arbitrary wishes, they are structured, clear, and actionable. A vague goal such as "I want to be successful" does not provide real direction, but a specific goal like "I want to start a business within the next year" immediately creates a structure. It allows for planning, step-by-step execution, and measurable progress. The more defined the goal, the easier it is to create a plan to achieve it. Structure emerges naturally from specificity, turning an abstract desire into a concrete path. Goals also transform failure from something discouraging into something useful. Chaos is overwhelming because it seems to have no pattern. Failures feel random, setbacks seem meaningless. But when a person has a goal, even failure becomes part of the process. A failure is no longer a dead end, it is information. It shows what does not work, what needs to be adjusted, and where improvement is necessary. A person with a goal sees failure as a lesson rather than as a defeat, allowing them to refine their approach and continue forward. Additionally, goals create accountability. Without a goal, there is no measure of success or failure, only vague intentions that can be easily abandoned. But when a person sets a goal, they create a standard by which they can judge their own actions. They can track progress, adjust their approach, and hold themselves responsible for their choices. This self-imposed accountability is one of the most powerful ways to ensure consistent effort. People who set goals are far more likely to follow through on their commitments because they have defined what they expect of themselves. Goals also influence identity. People often define themselves by what they pursue. Someone without clear goals may struggle with self-definition, feeling uncertain about who they are or what they want. But someone with a goal, whether in career, fitness, relationships, or personal growth, develops a stronger sense of identity. They become the kind of person who works towards something, who overcomes challenges, who is in control of their own destiny. Over time, this shapes not just their achievements, but their very understanding of who they are. Transformation is not a passive process. It does not happen by chance, nor is it something that can be achieved without cost. Every meaningful change, whether personal, professional, or societal, demands sacrifice. This is because transformation requires leaving behind old habits, outdated beliefs, and familiar comforts in order to move towards something greater. People often desire change without wanting to pay the price, but real transformation is impossible without giving up something in return. The greater the transformation, the greater the sacrifice required. At the core of transformation is the idea that something must be exchanged. A person who wants to become stronger must sacrifice laziness and comfort by enduring pain, sweat, and discipline. Someone who wants to achieve success must sacrifice leisure, short-term gratification, and sometimes even relationships that hold them back. Growth demands that the old self be shed to make room for something new. It is often painful, but it is the necessary cost of evolution. One of the first sacrifices required for transformation is security. People cling to what is familiar, even if it is not serving them. They stay in unfulfilling jobs, unhealthy relationships, or unproductive routines because stepping into the unknown feels risky. But security and transformation rarely coexist. To grow, a person must be willing to step outside their comfort zone, to risk failure, to endure uncertainty. It is in that space where safety is abandoned and discomfort is embraced that real change happens. Time is another major sacrifice. Transformation does not happen overnight, and those who seek quick results are often disappointed. Anything worth achieving requires time and sustained effort. A student who wants to master a subject must devote countless hours to studying. An athlete who wants to excel must train relentlessly, often for years, before reaching their peak. Every hour spent in focused effort is an hour that could have been spent on entertainment, relaxation, or socializing. The question is not whether a person has enough time, but whether they are willing to give up distractions in order to pursue something meaningful. Perhaps one of the hardest sacrifices in transformation is identity. People define themselves by their habits, their past experiences, and the way others see them. Changing means letting go of that familiar identity, which can feel like a loss. A person who has always been seen as shy must sacrifice that perception if they wish to become confident. Someone who has always been defined by their failures must abandon that identity in order to succeed. Transformation is not just about changing actions, it is about reshaping how a person sees themselves. And that is not easy. Comfort must also be sacrificed. Growth is uncomfortable by nature. The body resists exercise, the mind resists discipline, and the ego resists change. It is far easier to remain in old patterns than to push through discomfort. But no one becomes stronger without lifting heavier weights. No one becomes wiser without challenging their own beliefs. And no one becomes successful without enduring hardship. Those who avoid discomfort avoid transformation. The pain of change is temporary, but the regret of stagnation lasts a lifetime. Another sacrifice that often comes with transformation is relationships. Not everyone will support change, especially if it challenges the status quo. Friends who were once close may become distant if they feel threatened by a person's growth. People who have built relationships based on bad habits, whether excessive partying, gossip, or negativity, may find that transformation forces them to leave those relationships behind. It is painful but necessary. Surroundings shape behavior, and sometimes changing means letting go of those who encourage stagnation. Transformation also requires sacrificing excuses. Many people convince themselves that they cannot change because of external circumstances, lack of resources, bad luck, or past failures. But true transformation requires taking full responsibility. It means abandoning the idea that the world is to blame and accepting that change is within one's control. Excuses are comforting because they remove responsibility, but as long as a person clings to them, they remain trapped. Finally, transformation requires sacrificing immediate rewards for long-term gains. In a world of instant gratification, patience is rare. People want results without the struggle, rewards without the effort. But transformation is a slow process. A person who wants to build a great career must be willing to work hard without immediate recognition. Someone who wants to get in shape must train for months before seeing real results. Success comes to those who are willing to sacrifice short-term pleasure for long-term fulfillment. In the end, transformation is a choice. It is the choice to trade what is comfortable for what is meaningful, to let go of what is familiar in order to become something greater. It is never easy, but it is always worth it. Those who refuse to sacrifice remain where they are, while those who embrace the cost move forward. Transformation demands sacrifice, but what is gained in return is a stronger, wiser, and more capable version of oneself. Failure is often misunderstood. People tend to believe that failure happens when they try something and do not succeed. They think failure is making mistakes, experiencing setbacks, or not reaching a goal. But the real failure is not in trying and falling short. It is in never trying at all. Doing nothing is the true failure because it guarantees stagnation, prevents growth, and ensures that nothing ever changes. Every missed opportunity, every untaken risk, and every moment spent hesitating out of fear or uncertainty is a step toward a life filled with regret. Many people avoid action because they are afraid of failing. They fear embarrassment, judgment, or disappointment. But in avoiding failure, they unknowingly embrace something much worse: inaction. The person who refuses to apply for a dream job because they are afraid of rejection has already rejected themselves. The writer who never starts a book because they fear it will not be good enough has already ensured that their words will never be read. The athlete who refuses to compete because they fear losing has already lost. Doing nothing is a silent form of self-sabotage, one that kills dreams before they even have a chance to exist. Progress in any area of life comes from taking action. Growth requires movement, experimentation, and a willingness to engage with the unknown. Every person who's ever succeeded in anything has failed along the way. The greatest innovators, thinkers, and leaders did not reach their heights by avoiding failure, but by learning from it. Thomas Edison famously failed thousands of times before inventing the light bulb. If he had let failure stop him, the world would be a darker place, literally. The same is true for artists, entrepreneurs, scientists, and anyone who has ever made an impact. Their success was built on failure, but more importantly, on their refusal to do nothing. Inaction is not neutral, it is destructive. When people do nothing, they are not simply standing still, they are moving backward. Life continues, the world changes, and opportunities pass by. The person who refuses to grow remains the same, while everyone around them evolves. Time is always moving, and those who do nothing are not just wasting time, they are falling behind. A person who does not take care of their health does not remain in the same condition. They get weaker. A person who does not nurture relationships does not maintain them, they deteriorate. A person who does not pursue their dreams does not stay where they are, they drift further from what they once hoped to achieve. Fear is one of the biggest reasons people choose inaction. They fear failure, uncertainty, and stepping outside their comfort zones. But fear itself is not the problem. How people respond to it is. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to act despite it. Those who allow fear to control them remain trapped in a cycle of hesitation, always waiting for the right moment. But the perfect moment never comes. The longer they wait, the harder it becomes to take action. Over time, the habit of inaction becomes a way of life, making even small risks feel impossible. Perfectionism is another enemy of action. Many people do nothing because they believe that if they cannot do something perfectly, they should not do it at all. This mindset is a trap. Perfection is an illusion. Nothing starts out flawless. Every expert was once a beginner. Every master painter once struggled with a brush. Every great writer once wrote poorly. And every successful entrepreneur once had an idea that failed. Perfectionists, however, often remain stuck in their heads, dreaming of what they could do instead of actually doing it. They wait for the perfect conditions, the perfect skills, or the perfect moment, but perfection never arrives, and so they never begin. Regret is the ultimate cost of doing nothing. The pain of trying and failing is temporary, but the pain of never trying lasts forever. People who reach the later stages of life rarely regret their failures as much as they regret the chances they never took. They look back and wonder what could have been if only they had acted. Regret is a heavy burden, one that grows heavier with time. The only way to avoid it is to take action now, to make mistakes, to learn, and to move forward rather than stand still. Doing something, even if it is small, is always better than doing nothing. One step forward is better than staying in place. Even failure moves a person closer to success because it teaches, refines, and strengthens resilience. Those who act, even imperfectly, gain experience and momentum. Over time, small actions accumulate into real progress. The person who writes 1 paragraph a day eventually finishes a book. The person who exercises a little each day eventually becomes fit. The person who takes small risks in their career eventually finds success. Ultimately, the real failure in life is not making mistakes. It is refusing to try. It is choosing safety over growth, hesitation over progress, and comfort over potential. Those who do nothing out of fear, doubt, or complacency are the ones who truly fail, because they guarantee that nothing will ever change. The world belongs to those who take action, who step forward despite uncertainty, and who dare to try, fail, and try again. Those who do nothing fail by default.